Is it recording? I see that it is. And already I can't look into the camera. I'm looking into the mirror. Forgive the lighting once again. I got set up in another room. This is not the same place. I am a vagabond of YouTube. I cannot record in my own place. My name is Lewis, by the way. I'm at a co-worker's place, and the first setup I had, I tested the camera. There's a buzzing in the background, like a noise, you know. No, I didn't want to do that. So I changed rooms. Reflections in my glasses. I would never have thought about reflections in my glasses. And I'm trying to look into the camera now. Okay. Hi, camera. Sorry about the lighting. I don't think there's too many reflections. No, there's not. This will just have to do for now. Like I said, my name is Lewis. Oh yeah, there's the ums again. Yeah. Watching that video from December, I say all the time. Alright, so I wanted to read from this book, Hot, Flat, and Crowded. I'm the type of person that reads books once. I read it a few years ago. I remember liking it. This is one of those books that I feel like everyone should read. So, yeah, and I am tempted to almost go into old-fashioned vlog style and just try to describe all the trials and tribulations and my character flaws, and like even today, Florida heat knocked me out today. Going in and out of air conditioning today, I have a dull headache, and so it makes it that much harder for me to even turn the camera on. I don't do any editing really, so there's this real performance anxiety about even pressing the record button. But here we are. Alright, I do want to keep this under 10 minutes. I should have looked at the clock before I started. Alright, so I read you some pages, or a page or two last time. And I'm still going off of that. Hot, Flat, and Crowded by Thomas Friedman. Yeah. This is on page 10. Page 10, Hot, Flat, and Crowded. I worry that 50 years from now, some 8th grader will be doing her National History Day project on how America's reaction to 9/11 unintentionally disconnected us from parts of the world, from our best friends, from elements of our own identity. The well-known Indian author Gurcharan Das, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that anywhere near correctly, remarked to me during a visit to Delhi in 2005 that on several post-9/11 trips to America, he had been forced to by Border Patrol agents to explain why he was visiting. They make you feel so unwanted, said Das. America was a country that was always reinventing itself, he added, because it was a country that always welcomed all kinds of oddballs and had this wonderful spirit of openness. American openness had always been an inspiration for the whole world, he told me. If you go dark, the world goes dark. We have not gone dark yet, but since 9/11 we have been afraid, and when you're afraid, you're not yourself. In December of 2007, I was visiting Bahrain to interview the country's Crown Prince Sheikh Salman bin Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, who I have known and liked for many years. We were at a bistro having pizza, and at the table next to us were a Bahraini mother, father, and daughter. Side note, I've heard a few grumblings about Thomas Friedman and his anecdotes about talking to taxi drivers. Should you throw this book away because maybe he embellished a discussion with someone and he said it was a taxi driver. And in this case, he made the mistake of saying that, he met a sheikh, a Bahraini sheikh, at a pizza bistro. I mean, I guess. Don't lose sight of the points in this book and the points that he's making here. Back to the story. The mother was wearing a headscarf and dressed all in black with utmost modesty. The daughter dressed like an American teenager and had what looked like a tattoo on her left shoulder. Crown Prince Salman and I started talking about her generation of Bahrainis who have come of age since 9/11. In 2004, he reminded me, after an attack on a U.S. base in Saudi Arabia and some terrorist threats in Bahrain, the Pentagon ordered all U.S. dependents from its Fifth Fleet naval facility in Bahrain to return home to America. This threatened the collapse of the sole American-style high school in Bahrain, the Bahrain School, in which had been set up in 1968 by the U.S. Department of Defense to cater to Navy dependents and had the quality education landmark in the country ever since. By the 1980s, the American military dependents made up only 30% of the school's population, while nearly 70% were tuition-paying non-Americans, primarily the sons and daughters of Bahrain's business and political elite, including the Crown Prince in his day. The closure of the school and the departure of the dependents would have brought to an end everything from the American women's annual flower show in Bahrain to American Bahraini softball games to young Americans competing in soccer leagues with young Bahrainis. The Bahraini leadership, many of whom graduated from the school and were introduced to the American way of life there, pleaded with the Pentagon to keep its dependents in Bahrain and keep its education beachhead open. But the dependents left, and the school managed to survive only after the Bahraini government agreed to write checks to the Pentagon. That school was a real meritocracy, said my Bahraini friend Sareen al-Shirawi, who graduated from there in 1987 and is now a business consultant in London. Once you walked into the school, who you were did not matter. You were always judged on merit, which was very different from other schools in Bahrain, where you were judged for your wealth or your family connections. Until today, the people in Bahrain who graduated from the school are different. You got disciplined. You were encouraged to take risks and fail. It was run according to the American value system. Crown Prince Salman added, the American school was the best advertisement Americans ever had. It made more friends than the American embassy. Sad to say, now there is a young generation of Bahrainis growing up who never got introduced to that America. If they are 17 years old today, they were 11 when September 11th happened. They never saw the fall of the Berlin Wall. They never saw American liberation of Kuwait. They only know the America of Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay. It's not the America we fell in love with, said Salman, although he hastened to add, I am sure that America will come back. I am sure that it can come back, but not if we remain on the track that we've been on. I was visiting The Hague in January 2008, and my Dutch friends Volkert and Karen Doksen told me a story that made me laugh and cry at the same time. In April 2004, they said they had been invited to a dinner party at a restaurant in The Hague, the Impero Romano, by the U.S. ambassador to Holland at the time. The dinner was for the visiting head of the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, Karen Tandy, as well as for the Dutch Minister of Health, Welfare, and Sports, Hans Hugersvorst. I'm going to have quite a time with these names throughout the book, but whatever. I arrived at the dinner a little late, and the restaurant looked full, recalled Volkert, who is the CEO of the Dutch Investment Fund, Only when we all got up to leave at the end of the dinner did I realize how many guards the Americans had. Why, I asked. Because Between Tandy's own security guards and those of the U.S. ambassador and those added by the Dutch government, it was like the whole restaurant got up and left with us. There was almost nobody left, Volkert explained. The best part was that our Minister of Health, who was the only person anyone would have recognized, had no security guards. He arrived at the restaurant on his bicycle. After dinner, Volkert said, our whole group went out for a walk around the central square. It was the eve of the Dutch national holiday, Queen's Day, and a square full of young people dressed very wildly, smoking marijuana, with gay men openly kissing in the street. The American minister had so many guards around her that they started jolting with the people in the crowd, very aggressive, and people were getting angry. So we just said, forget it, let's go home, recalled Volkert. That's what it's like these days when a visiting senior U.S. official tries to mingle with the locals. Forget it, let's go home. A friend of mine who had served several tours as a U.S. diplomat in Europe summed up the whole trend. The upside is that we have more security. The downside is you lose the human contact it makes it way harder to have interactions with people who are not part of the elite. It makes my job less fun. Some days you might as well be in Cleveland looking at the world through a bullet plate glass window. Have no doubt millions of foreigners would still line up for visas at American embassies even if we charged $1,000 per entry stamp and demanded their dental x-rays. But others, especially young Europeans, are thinking twice because they don't want the hassle, particularly the fact that they have to get fingerprinted. Roger Dow, president and CEO of American Travel Industries Association, told me his organization estimated that by 2007, America had lost several million overseas visitors since 9/11, even though the dollar has steadily weakened, which means that America and everything in it is on sale to foreigners with euros or yen. Only the U.S. is losing traveler volume among major countries, which is unheard of in today's world. Total business arrivals to the U.S. fell by 10% over 2004 and 2005, while the number of business visitors to Europe grew by 8% over the same period. The Travel Industry's 2007 Discover America Partnership study concluded that U.S. entry process has created a climate of fear and frustration that is turning away foreign business and leisure travelers from visiting the United States and damaging America's image abroad. Of course there is a need for improved airport screening devices and safer embassies. We do have real enemies. 9/11 really was a diabolical and terrifying attack on New York City and our nation's capital. It really took the simmering global struggle between West and Islamist totalitarianism to a whole new level. New threats are still appearing. We have to respond. Have we overdone it? Probably. I will never get used to watching grandmothers in wheelchairs being examined with metal detectors. It is not the level of security that's the core issue for me. My problem is not with the metal detectors and screenings. My problem is that there's nothing waiting for us on the other side. There has been way too little vision for an America of 9/12 and way too much 9/11 over and over and over. I would go through a gauntlet of 5 airport metal detectors every time I flew out of Washington, D.C. if I thought there was some great project worthy of America on the other side, not just the war on terrorism. Even in the Cold War, when we were doing nuclear drills in my school basement, we were also figuring out how to launch men into space, probing the next frontier, and inspiring a young generation. We need America, and the world needs America to be something more than just United States of fighting terrorism. Yes, we must never forget who our enemies are, but we must always remember who we are. We must never forget who our enemies are, but we must always remember who we are. They are the people who perpetrate 9/11s. We are the people who celebrate the 4th of July. That's our national holiday, not 9/11. Since I don't have too much experience reading aloud to a camera, I'm finding my voice kind of faltering and a little dryness in my throat and all that kind of stuff. Another side of this is every paragraph can be dissected, and I can already imagine certain reactions, like the picture that Friedman is painting here. I can just see certain almost knee-jerk reactions from certain people. But he addressed that issue about how we do have enemies, and you're free not to agree with Thomas Friedman 100%. I'm not going to have so much commentary, I don't think, as I read this. By the way, I'm not reading it page 1 to the last page. I'm not reading every page or every paragraph. I'm reading sections that I think I want to record reading. I do think he will at times be a little too optimistic, which for some people will be a little too hard to swallow. But like I'm trying to say, hear the man out, you know, as I read these pages. I could keep making that point, I suppose, or I'll just keep reading. Let me check the time. There's no clock that I can just look at. Wow, see, the time goes by really fast. Maybe that's maybe I should end it here for this video. Oh wow. Oh wow, I didn't even know I made it to about yeah, over 17 minutes already. That's a 1/7, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, since I don't like editing, I'm just gonna turn the power button off now. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked the book. My name is Lewis. I have no idea what I'm doing.